my grandson, with a worried expression, approached me.
Mom is cold, so I need to warm her up.
On a scorching summer day with a temperature of 104 degrees Fahrenheit, he had come alone to the drugstore where I work. To my surprise, the shopping basket my grandson was carrying contained a large number of hand warmers. "What are these for?" I asked, puzzled. "Mom is cold." Could it be? Alarmed, I hurried to my daughter's house. There, I discovered my daughter in a completely changed state. I have a daughter named Isabella. After losing my husband early, we lived together, supporting each other. Thanks to that, our mother-daughter relationship was very close, and even after Isabella became independent and moved out, we continued to see each other frequently. My daughter married Nicholas, a company executive, 6 years ago, and soon after, Lucas was born. For me, Lucas is not only my first grandchild but also an incredibly adorable presence. Isabella's family lives about a 15-minute drive from my house. While I worked part-time at the drugstore, I visited their home daily to help with childcare. However, one day, suddenly, the days when I couldn't see my daughter and grandson began. It all started when Lucas turned 5 years old. On that day, as usual, I had made plans to visit my daughter's house. But on the morning of that day, I received an unexpected email from her. "Today, something came up, and I'm sorry, but can we reschedule?" I wondered if Lucas had other plans with friends. Without much thought, I replied, agreeing to the change. However, from that day on, communication from Isabella ceased abruptly. Not only did she decline my invitations, but she also provided various reasons like Lucas has a cold, a friend is visiting, or there's a kindergarten event. It seemed odd that our schedules never aligned. Concerned, I decided to call her. "You seem busy lately. What's going on?" I asked. Isabella replied,
"Oh, nothing in particular, really."
I offered, "If you need help, I'll come over. I've missed seeing you and Lucas." Her response was curt.
"Thanks, but I'll reach out when I need it. I have things to do now."
The infrequent phone call was cut short, and Isabella's tone was off. As a mother, it was clear to me that something was amiss. I was troubled, so I decided to call my son-in-law and inquire about my daughter over the phone.
"Is this about Isabella?"
"Yes, it is. Lately, she suddenly stopped contacting me, and I've been worried about her health." "Nicholas, do you know anything?" After a brief silence, he hesitantly responded,
"Ah. Actually, Isabella expressed a desire to distance herself from you."
"What?"
"She mentioned that your messages were becoming too persistent. Anyway, both Isabella and Lucas are doing well, so please give them some space."
With that, Nicholas promptly ended the call. After our conversation, I was in shock and couldn't move for a while. Isabella and I had been close, like friends. It's hard to believe she felt that way. But now that Nicholas has made it clear, there's nothing I can do. Despite my worries, all I can do is wait for Isabella to reach out. After more than half a year without seeing my daughter and grandson, I felt a gaping hole in my heart. To be avoided like this, I must have caused her considerable pain, those thoughts weighed heavily on me, and I couldn't help but blame myself. Still, I worked even harder at my part-time job, hoping that someday I could give my grandson an allowance when we reunited. Then, as the seasons changed, one hot summer day, I was at my usual post in the drugstore, manning the cash register. A little boy approached, seemingly on an errand. When I looked at his face, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was Lucas. My joy overflowed at the sight of my long-lost grandson, but he seemed flustered and didn't notice me. I wondered if Isabella, my daughter, was nearby. I scanned the area, but there was no sign of her. It appeared that Lucas was alone. If it were Isabella, she'd be keeping a close eye on him during his errand, I thought. But there was something else that struck me as odd. In the shopping basket that my grandson carried, despite the summer heat, there were numerous hand warmers. Lucas, it's been a while. He looked surprised, eyes wide, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Are you running errands alone today? And why so many warmers? I asked, puzzled.
Well, Mom feels cold, so she needs to warm up.
I was taken aback. His serious expression told me this was no ordinary situation. I left Lucas waiting in a corner of the store and hurriedly explained the circumstances to the manager. Concerned, the manager allowed me to leave early. As I prepared to go, I placed Lucas in the car and drove swiftly to my daughter's house. The front door was left open because my grandson hadn't locked it properly.
Grandma, this way.
Lucas called out. Following him into the house, I was met with a shocking sight. Isabella lay collapsed on the floor. I rushed to lift her, but her body was limp, her face pale. I pressed my hand to her mouth, but she wasn't breathing. Isabella! Stay with me! Isabella! I immediately called an ambulance, and the treating physician warned that the situation was critical. Then, hesitantly, the doctor said,
Regarding your daughter, there's something concerning.
That's when I learned an unbelievable truth. Isabella's hospitalization was confirmed, and I needed to inform my son-in-law. However, no matter how many times I called, I couldn't reach him. It's an emergency, so there's no helping it, I thought. In a dilemma, I decided to call the company my son-in-law manages. Hello. I'm the president's mother-in-law, and I have an urgent matter. Could you please connect me to the president? The employee responded.
The president is on vacation with his family overseas.
I was taken aback. After all, Isabella and Lucas, who were part of Nicholas's family, were currently at the hospital. What on earth is going on? Despite my confusion, I left a voicemail on my son-in-law's phone, urgently requesting him to call back. Finally, the next day, Nicholas returned my call. Nicholas! Isabella collapsed at home and is currently unconscious in the hospital. His surprised tone echoed through the phone. When I urged him to come to the hospital, he hesitated.
I'm currently on a business trip abroad, so I can't return immediately.
A business trip? But the company staff said it was a family vacation. I felt suspicious of his contradictory statement. However, I didn't press the issue and simply asked him to hurry back. Then I hung up, ready to rush to Isabella's side. My son-in-law returned from abroad and arrived at the hospital 5 days later. As soon as he saw my face, Nicholas urgently asked,
Is Isabella still alive?
His choice of words, whether she was still alive, struck me. Not whether she was okay, but whether she was alive. Let's go to her room, I said, leading him to my daughter's bedside. There, Isabella lay peacefully with her eyes closed. Nicholas rushed to her bed, covering his face with both hands, shoulders shaking as he burst into tears. His grief mirrored that of a bereaved husband. However, as he opened the door and glimpsed my daughter, I noticed a faint change in his expression. Unaware of my gaze, Nicholas, after shedding tears, quietly spoke.
Isabella had been unwell recently. I urged her to see a doctor, but she didn't go, and now this.
No, it wasn't due to illness, I replied. Nicholas seemed taken aback.
Oh, I see.
When I found Isabella, she was covered in bruises. My words stiffened his expression.
Then it must have been a break-in during my absence. It has to be.
Despite his agitation, Nicholas desperately clung to the idea that a burglar caused my daughter's death. However, when I pointed out that the house showed no signs of a break-in, he still seemed poised to say something. That's when I decided to confront him directly. By the way, you've been on a business trip until now, right? But when I asked your company, they said you were on a family vacation. What on earth is going on? My son-in-law trembled, eyes wide, beads of sweat forming.
What? You contacted my company without permission? That's outrageous.
I replied firmly. Despite my daughter collapsing, I couldn't reach you. Is it so strange to contact the company in an emergency? He persisted.
This is pointless. I'm busy arranging Isabella's funeral, so I'll take Lucas home. Where is he?
Nicholas's frustration was palpable. He wanted to leave this situation urgently. Lucas is at my house, but I won't send him back to you, I asserted. My son-in-law retorted.
Huh? What are you talking about?
Isabella's body had numerous bruises, ranging from old to new. It wasn't the result of a single robbery, as you claim. Do you know anything about these bruises? I said, locking eyes with him.
Do you suspect me? Even if that were the case, do you have any evidence to prove it? If not, I'll sue you for defamation.
Nicholas raged, trembling with anger. But then, unexpectedly, a voice echoed through the room.
The one who could be sued is you.
Suddenly, Isabella's arm lifted from the bed, pulling away the covering cloth. She sat up, defying his expectations.
Why are you alive?
Isabella, whom he believed had passed away, had actually survived due to diligent medical treatment. Together, we had orchestrated this charade to deceive my son-in-law, making it seem as though my daughter had died. According to what I heard from Isabella, my daughter and son-in-law had been having frequent arguments due to his late-night escapades for about a year. Their relationship had deteriorated significantly. Isabella revealed that during these fights, Nicholas would become physically violent, leaving visible bruises on her body. She intentionally avoided meeting me during that time, not wanting to worry me by revealing the bruises. Now, let's rewind to the day Lucas came to my store. Isabella had discovered Nicholas's lie about being on a business trip when he was actually planning a vacation with his affair partner. She confronted him, demanding a divorce. In a fit of rage, Nicholas mistreated Isabella. He left her unconscious and cold at home, heading off on his trip. It was then that Lucas, their 5-year-old son, woke up, found his mother, and decided to come to my drugstore to buy hand warmers, believing it would revive her.
I intend to report this to the police.
What? That's an exaggeration.
It's not an exaggeration when my life was at risk. I've actually been injured and suffered through this.
This is just a regular marital argument. It'll blow over.
Nicholas, though flustered by the mention of the police, still tried to maintain his bravado. Seeing this, my daughter and I exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. Even after seeing this, can you still say it's just a marital spat? I confronted my son-in-law, showing him the video on my smartphone. The footage clearly captured Nicholas physically assaulting Isabella during an argument. She had set up the camera as evidence for their divorce proceedings. It doesn't look like a simple argument, does it? I challenged him.
Well,
watching the incriminating video, my son-in-law lost his ability to deny the truth. He turned pale, trembling, and suddenly collapsed right there.
I'm sorry. I was wrong. The affair wasn't serious. It was just a fling. That's why I didn't want a divorce and lost my temper.
A fling or not, cheating is still cheating. I can't consider anything other than separating from you.
Isabella showed no intention of forgiving Nicholas. Tearfully, he apologized to my daughter, but she pushed him away.
Please try to convince Isabella.
Now he turned to me, desperate for help. Seeing his desperate state, I sighed. I won't defend someone who raises a hand to my own daughter. There's no way I'd take your side. Honestly, life would be better without a husband like you. I dismissed him coldly and promptly contacted the police. When the officers arrived, Nicholas was tearfully taken away. Subsequently, my daughter's testimony and the incriminating video led to his conviction. As a company president, Nicholas's arrest triggered a corporate takeover, and he lost his job. My daughter divorced him, claiming $30,000 for medical expenses and emotional distress, along with $45,000 in child support. She also demanded $13,000 from his affair partner. Nicholas used the remaining funds from selling the company to pay my daughter, leaving himself penniless. My daughter was eventually discharged from the hospital, and now we live peacefully as a family of 3: myself, my daughter, and Lucas. We've returned to enjoying our time together, just like before. I'll continue to watch over my beloved daughter and grandson.
How did you find this story? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until next time.